My mother abandoned me as a baby, but was the perfect mom to her other 3 kids. Now, my stepfather demands to walk me down the aisle at my wedding, but I slammed the door in his face and exposed him in front of the entire family. I'm 27 years old. I'm engaged to the love of my life, and about 2 weeks ago, I had to slam the door in the face of a man who was never my father, but insists on acting like he was. And no, I don't feel bad about it, honestly. But I need to tell this story because my family, part of my biological family, is making me feel like I'm the villain here, and frankly, I need to get it off my chest. I guess I should start at the beginning. My mother, Heather, abandoned me when I was a baby. And when I say abandoned, I don't mean she left my dad and me because of irreconcilable differences or whatever. I mean she literally left one day and decided that being a mother wasn't her thing. My dad, Joseph, stayed with me. He was like 25 years old at the time, worked in construction, and suddenly found himself raising a baby completely alone. I don't have many memories of those first years, obviously, but the photos I have show a young guy who looked exhausted but was always smiling when he held me. The thing is that Heather didn't completely disappear from my life, and honestly, sometimes I think it would have been better if she had. The court ordered her to visit me every other weekend and pay child support, you know. Well, guess how many times she complied with that? Maybe she showed up 5 or 6 times a year, if that. And the child support thing was a joke. Like, she went to jail twice for not paying. Twice. My dad never talked bad about her in front of me. Never. But I saw his face every time she canceled a visit, or just didn't show up. He tried to act like it didn't matter, like we were an unstoppable team of 2, but I knew it hurt him for my sake. When I was like 6 years old, Heather met Eric. They got married super fast, I think like 8 months after meeting, and then they started having kids. They had 3 total, one after another, and suddenly Heather was this super dedicated mom who went to all the soccer games and made homemade cookies and all. That's shit. And I was there thinking, seriously? You can be a mom to them but not to me? I'm not gonna lie, that messed me up pretty bad. My dad noticed, obviously, and started doing extra things with me, like taking me fishing on weekends or teaching me how to fix things around the house. He always said, "You and me are enough, Dakota. We don't need anyone else." And the truth is, he was right. Eric tried to insert himself into my life when I was like 10 years old. It was at the Father's Day event at my school. My dad couldn't go because he had to work. It was a big project he couldn't cancel. And I was okay with that, really. I had brought my lunch and planned to eat alone or with some friend whose dad was also absent. But then Eric showed up. He arrived with this huge smile and told me, "Hey champ, your mom thought you shouldn't be alone today." And I stood there thinking, who asked you to come? But I was a 10-year-old kid, so I just sat with him and let him talk about I don't know what. He tried to act like we were close, like he knew me. And the whole time, I just wanted my real dad to be there. When I got home that night, I told my dad what had happened. He turned pale, like literally lost the color in his face, and then hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. He told me, "I'm so sorry. I should have been there." And I told him, "Dad, it's okay. Eric is nobody to me. You're my dad." He cried that night. I heard him in his room, and I felt terrible because I didn't want him to feel bad. But I was also angry at Heather for putting Eric in that situation, you know? My dad died of a heart attack. It was completely out of nowhere. Like, one day we were watching a movie on the couch, and the next he was in the hospital, and doctors were telling me there was nothing they could do. He was 39 years old. 39. That's super young, right? And suddenly, I was alone. Completely alone. And I didn't know what was going to happen to me. At the funeral, Eric approached me. I was standing there with my uncles, Zach and Cody, who are my dad's brothers, and Eric put his hand on my shoulder and told me, "I know this is a difficult time, but I want you to know you have a place with us. You can come live with your mom and me and your siblings." And I looked at him like he had grown 2 heads. I told him, "No thanks, I'm going to stay with my uncles." And he insisted, like, "But we're your family. You need to be with your family." And that's when something inside me exploded. I told him, "You're not my family. You've never been my family. And my mom isn't either because she decided not to be a long time ago. My uncles Zach and Cody took me in without thinking twice. They didn't have kids of their own. They lived together in a house they had bought together, and they basically informally adopted me. They gave me my own room, helped me with homework, went to all my school things. Zach worked in accounting and Cody was a nurse. And between the two of them, they made sure I had everything I needed. They never tried to replace my dad, but they made it clear that I was important to them, that I was part of their family. And honestly, they saved me. I don't know what I would have done without them. Eric tried to contact me several times over the next few years. He would send me messages on my birthday, at Christmas, just to check how I was doing according to him. I never responded. Heather also tried a few times, but it was obvious Eric was pushing her to do it because her messages sounded super forced, like, "Hi Dakota, hope you're doing well, thought about you today." And I thought, really? You thought about me today but didn't think about me during the first 6 years of my life? Eventually, I blocked them both when I was like 18 years old. Years passed. I went to college, studied graphic design, got a decent job, met Logan. Logan is, I don't know. He's perfect for me. We met 4 years ago at a super boring networking event and somehow ended up having the most interesting conversation of the night about bad 90 seconds movies. He proposed to me 6 months ago, and obviously I said yes. I'm planning a small wedding, just close people, you know, my uncles, some friends, Logan's family. About 3 weeks ago, I went to a family birthday party. It was my grandmother's birthday, Heather's mom, and although my relationship with Heather is non-existent, I do have some contact with my grandmother because she was always good to me, always sent me birthday cards and called me from time to time. So I went to the party with Logan. I knew Heather and Eric were going to be there, but I thought, it's just a few hours. I can handle it. Everything was going well at first. I was talking with my grandmother and some cousins, avoiding Heather and Eric as best I could. But then Eric approached me. He had this face of, I don't know, determination or something, and he told me, "Dakota, I need to talk to you about something important." I basically told him, no thanks, but he insisted. He said, "I know you're getting married soon. Your grandmother told me, and I want you to know I would love to walk you down the aisle. It would be an honor for me." I froze. I literally couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told him, "What?" And he repeated, "I want to walk you down the aisle at your wedding. I know your dad isn't here, but I can be there for you." And something inside me just broke. I told him, out loud, because by that point we had the attention of like half the people at the party. "Eric, you're not my dad, you've never been my dad, and you're never going to walk me down any aisle. My dad is dead, and if he can't do it, then nobody will." Heather appeared out of nowhere and started defending him. She said, "Dakota, that's very cruel. Eric is just trying to help. He just wants to be part of your life." And I exploded. I told her, "Now you care about being part of my life? After abandoning me when I was a baby? After missing almost all your visits? After going to jail twice for not paying child support? And now Eric wants to be my dad? Where was he when I really needed a father? Where were you when I needed a mother?" The party went completely silent. My grandmother looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything. Some cousins had their eyes wide. Logan was by my side with his hand on my back, supporting me. Heather had tears in her eyes, and Eric looked between angry and hurt. I just grabbed Logan and we left. The next day, Heather called me. She had unblocked her number or gotten a new one or something because I had blocked her again after the party. She left me a voicemail saying I was disrespectful, that Eric had been there for me more than I recognized, that I needed to grow up and learn to forgive. I called her back, just to tell her one thing. I told her, "Heather, Eric wasn't there for me. He showed up at one school event when I was 10 years old without anyone asking him to, and then offered a house at my dad's funeral like that made up for 14 years of absence. That's not being a father. My dad was my father, every day of his life until he died. And my uncles have been more family to me in the last 13 years than you in my entire life. So don't talk to me about respect because you never gave it to me." And I hung up. I thought that was it, you know? I thought we were finally done with this drama. But 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks, Eric showed up at my apartment. I don't know how he got my address. Probably someone in the family gave it to him. He knocked on the door, and when I opened it and saw him standing there, I was in shock. He had this expression like of a concerned father or something and said, "Dakota, we need to talk about this. You can't keep pushing me away from your life. I'm your stepfather and I deserve respect." And I just closed the door in his face. He kept knocking, saying, "Dakota, open the door. Let's be adults about this." But I didn't open. I yelled from inside. "Leave, or I'm calling the police." Eventually, he left. I blocked all the numbers I could from him and Heather again, told my grandmother not to give them any more information about me, and told Logan everything, who basically said, "If he shows up again, I'll talk to him." Now, part of my family is telling me I was too harsh, that Eric just wants to be part of my life, that I should give him a chance because family is important. And I just don't get it. Why do I have to give a chance to someone who was never really there? Why do I have to accept this father role he wants to play? When my real father, the man who raised me alone, who sacrificed everything for me, isn't here anymore to see that I'm okay. The truth is, I don't need Eric. I don't need Heather. I have my uncles Zach and Cody, who are going to walk me down the aisle together at my wedding. I have Logan, who supports me in everything. I have friends who are more family than anyone I share DNA with, and I have the memories of my dad, Joseph, who taught me what it means to be a real father. A few days ago, I found an old letter my dad wrote me when I was like 8 years old. I had kept it in a box with other things of his. It said something like, "Dakota, I just want you to know that you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Every day with you is a gift, and no matter what happens, I'm always going to be proud of you." And I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. Because he should be here. He should walk me down the aisle. He should meet Logan. He should see the life I've built. The wedding is in 3 months. I already sent out the invitations. Heather and Eric aren't invited, obviously, and if they show up anyway, I have 2 of Logan's groomsmen ready to escort them out. It sounds dramatic, but honestly, I don't care anymore. This is my wedding, my life, and I decide who's part of it. And I've decided that the people who deserve to be there are the ones who have really been there for me, not the ones who show up when it's convenient for them or when they feel guilt or whatever Eric and Heather are feeling. Do I feel bad about closing the door in Eric's face? No. Do I feel bad about yelling at Heather at my grandmother's party? A little, because I didn't want to ruin my grandmother's party. But I don't regret what I said. Do I feel bad about not giving them a chance? Not at all. Because I gave them chances. For years I gave them chances. Every time Heather canceled a visit and I waited with my backpack ready. Every time Eric tried to act like my dad when he had no right. Every time I convinced myself that maybe things would change. But I'm not that kid waiting for his mom to show up anymore. I'm not that teenager who lost his dad and felt lost. I'm an adult who has built his own family, his own life, and is okay with the decisions he's made. Logan asked me the other day if I ever wonder what my life would have been like if Heather had stayed, if she and my dad had worked out. And I told him yes, that sometimes I think about that. But then I think about all the moments I had alone with my dad. All the conversations, all the lessons, all the way he made me feel loved and safe even though technically he was doing it alone. And I realize I wouldn't change that for anything. My dad gave me everything I needed, and when he couldn't anymore, my uncles took over. That's my family. That's what matters. So no, I'm not going to let Eric walk me down the aisle. I'm not going to invite Heather to my wedding. I'm not going to pretend we're a happy family when we never were. And if that makes me the bad guy in some people's story, so be it. At least I'm being honest, something they never were with me.